My name is Aditya Harinugroho, a researcher at Lembaga Demografi, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Indonesia, and I will serve as a moderator for today's seminar. Today's seminar is a collaboration between Lembaga Demografi and Forum Kajian Pembangunan, and the topics for today's seminar is about digital economy. And with the title, Digital Economy, Microeconomy and Business Perspective, which will be presented by Ibu Dr. Telissa Aulia Falianty. Ibu Telissa get her doctoral degree in economics from Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Indonesia, and now she is working as an associate professor at the same faculty, and then also an adjunct researcher at Lembaga Demografi, and also being an economic committee on economic and industry. Also working as a senior advisor professional at National Economic Committee on Economic and Industry. Many of her work already published at national and international journals such as Jurnal Ekonomi dan Moneter, Jurnal Ekonomi dan Pembangunan Indonesia, International Journal and Business and Society, European Journal of Economics, Finance and Administrative Science, and many more of her work already published in many journals in Indonesia and international. The presentation will be delivered in 30 minutes, and after the presentation session, we will enter the Q&A session. You are free to ask in English and Bahasa. And before the question, please state your name and institution. So, without further ado, I will invite Ibu Telissa to present her work. Ibu Telissa, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for ladies and gentlemen to come in this presentation. Like Mr. Adit has told you that today the topic is about the digital economy. It's like the two-in-one component here. First, from the side of macroeconomy, and the second one is from the side to more micro and business perspective. So this is actually the synergy from the two research. The first research is about the digital economy impacts from the macroeconomic side. First, from the point of view, the impact to the balance of payment and national real sector account. And the second study is more microeconomics and industry topics. It's about the determinants of growth of business in consumer e-commerce across countries in the era of disruptive innovation. The first paper actually is our policy papers in National Economic Committee on Economic and Industry. And the second paper is the paper with my students in Master of Planning and Public Policy, Faculty of Economic and Business, University of Indonesia with Pamunip Ansori. So today, I will try to discuss, to elaborating the two issues in the synergy way and the relationship between the two issues. And I think, of course, the topic is about digital economy. Currently, today is very popular, and maybe there are many insights from the topic of digital economy. But of course, I hope there are some feedback from you. Actually, I would like to thank to Central Bank of Indonesia, Pak Ardo, that has come to this discussion, and also my students, relatively my college, and also from FKP or from PPI and other attendance here. I said thank you very much for, and I hope I can give some new contribution or new knowledge from you, and also I think there are some feedback from you. Okay, the outline of the paper. First, about the background of the study, and then the literature study as the fundamental theoretical framework to form this study, and then the third one about the research method, and the fourth about results and analysis, and followed by conclusion and going forward regarding with maybe like the strategy or recommendation for the future. Before we go into the next discussion, I think it is important for us to discuss the definition of digital economy itself. Sometimes the definition of digital economy, there are many definitions from OECD, from G20, from IMF, and other several international institutions that try to elaborate the definition of digital economy, and it's still in the process. It's still developed. There are no strict definition, but if we see, I think this is a good one from Book and Hicks here, 2018. They try to picture the definition of digital economy from the core until the broad scope. The core of digital or ICT sector here regarding with hardware, software, and also the information services and telecommunication. And rather than that, in the narrow scope of digital economy, also including digital service, platform economy, and also sharing economy, here. And also regarding with several topic here. But in the broader scope of digitalized economy, it could be including e-commerce here, and also some of Industry 4.0, and then the precision agriculture, and also algorithmic economy. So I think it is important for us to see those differences. So when we talk about digital economy here, of course we'll refer to some of this definition. Okay, the first background of the first study, why this topic is important, I refer to the Hotsuits 2019 research that according to Indonesia Digital Report, the use of digital technology has the potential to have significant economic impact, resulting higher income growth until 80% for small medium enterprise, and adding 3% income growth for GDP. So in terms of macroeconomy, there are a potential of our GDP to increase along the maximum around 3% here. So I think 3% increase in GDP is a big number. So this is the potential, but of course in reality we're below the potential because there are some obstacles in the markets, and there are some policy that needed to boost this to achieve its maximum impact. However, on the other hand, even it has the potential to increase the GDP, to increase the income, like already know, popularly we know, but we should see that this is also like the two sides, positive impact and also negative impact. On the other hand, Indonesia current account deficits has poorer performance in the last several years and has significantly contributed by high information and communication technology import as well as intellectual property right. We will see in detail. So this is become the motivation for us to study about this impact. The impact not only to the income or to the real sector, but also to see the impact to our external stability. One indicator of our external stability would be measuring by the current account or balance of payment position. So we will see it's in terms of GDP, we could see that if we take that the information and communication sector alone, of course the digital economy could be included in other sector in GDP, but if we see information and communication alone, we see here that the contribution increased. This is the number, the left one, the gray is for the 2011, and the yellow one is for 2018. And we see that the contribution of information and technology become increase in our GDP from 4% to 5%. It is only in the ICT sector, information and communication. Of course, the digital economy could also include it in other sectors. But if we see first time from our GDP profile, it could see that the ICT sector increase in our GDP. And if we look at the balance of payment position or the current account especially, the contribution of ICT sectors and intellectual property payment is around 5 until 8% from service deficit. During the last decade, global e-commerce business also recorded phenomenal growth. We see that, in the global, of course, the global e-commerce also increased, but on the other hand, the contribution of ICT sectors in our import become also increasing and also as the one of the contributor of our current account deficit. So this is mean that we have the two sides impact, positive impact and also the negative impact. This has become the background of the first study because, as I said in the first slide, that we will have the two major studies here, two groups of studies. And the background for the second studies is about if we look at the profile, this is the data of the business to consumer e-commerce in 2016. We see we use the data from 14 countries in the world: United States, Canada, England, Germany, France, Australia, Russia, Brazil, Mexico, China, Japan, South Korea, India, and Indonesia. It is the 14 countries that are strategically placed in the world's e-commerce. And we know that China, US, and UK is the third largest positions in the e-commerce transactions. So we will see why there are the increasing trend of business to commerce. Of course, there are several modes of e-commerce. From the theory, we could see that there are some types G2G, B2G, consumer to government. There are C2C also. But the study with my students in Master of Planning and Public Policy, focusing on the business to consumer data. Why? Because the trend is relatively increasing and also the data. It is about the access to data. Usually, business to consumer relatively has relatively better data. Because, for example, consumer to consumer is sometimes readily hard to capture. So we try to focusing on business to consumer data. If we see from the 14 countries here, even though its growth was phenomenal, the relationship of B2C e-commerce to global retail is relatively low. So there are still some problems. In one side, the growth of e-commerce from business to consumer is increasing, but from the other side, the portion to the global retail is still low. So in terms of growth, the nominal transaction value of e-commerce is increasing, but on the other hand, we could see that the portion, the total portion trade to global retail, the B2C e-commerce to global retail is still low. So if we compare to the other countries, Indonesia of course relatively still low here. We see that Indonesia still has the lowest amount of the total retail, 2.2% for 2016. Indonesia, Mexico, India, Russia, and Brazil belong to the countries that have the lowest among those 14 countries. It was less than 3.7 in 2016. Okay, so there are three research objectives. Especially the research is not too complicated, not too complicated like the research of Pak Ardo or Pak Beckman, not too complicated as that. This research especially has the simple objectives. The first is to identify the impact of digital economy to balance of payment, and the second one to identify the impact of digital economy to real sector national account. And the third one is to identify the factors that influence and stimulate the growth of B2C e-commerce across countries that become the sample 14 countries that already presented. So this is the research objectives. And this is some of literature studies. I think I will discuss it shortly, but this research usually motivates by the research from Terzi, from Grun, from Rexman and Arda, and also Gibbs and Grimmer, who et al., Falk and Huston, and there are many research that we already try to elaborate in these studies, but there are several important points that most of the researcher finds the positive impact of ICT sector to national sector account and also to economic activity. And also here, for example, Terzi said that the e-commerce transaction activities have an impact on economic sector, especially in companies' price and productivity. So there are many studies, I think, that already found the same thing, similar thing, that it is could increase the productivity, yeah, and also the national income. And also we know that it is also doing the transformation of the economic sector to incorporating the artificial intelligence and automated system, platform, robots, machine learning, etc. Yeah. And also, it is regarding with the computer and electronic equipment, electrical equipment, plastic, rubber, and chemical tools, and industrial machinery. I think if we have some data like Lexman and other, it will be better. But this study, of course, because this is like a research project that with the short time period, so sometimes the data access is still limited, yeah. But we only access in aggregate data. But of course, for the future recommendation, we could also doing like to more detail to which sector or subsectors. Okay, and for the e-commerce here, there are several studies that using some independent variable to explain the growth of B2C consumer. There are internal and external factors. Yeah, usually there are some internal factors, for example, domestic income, and also regarding with labor productivity that also influence, and also of course infrastructure in technology itself that affecting the B2C, and also the regulation. Usually regulation has also the significant impact to the growth of business to consumers e-commerce growth. And talking about the research methodology here, we have the first and second objective using like simple descriptive analytic and also multiple regression using secondary data analysis from Indonesia and also from BPS, of course, with the time series from 2000 and 2018 using time series data. And for the third objective, we apply the generalized least square estimation technique with panel data. Using fixed effect model because this is the best in terms of compare with fixed effect and random effect, but the study found that fixed effect is better in terms of the performance of the model. So we use the general square with the 14 countries. In this study, the dependent variable we use is the share of B2C e-commerce to the retail commerce, and the independent variable we use the proxy. There are some independent variable that we will discuss later. For the objective one, we use the simple statistic, and also we use as the complement to our methodology, because this is the policy paper for the president at that time. We make some the memo to the presidents about the digital economy, and we use also the methodology of in-depth interview and also focus group discussion with the relevant stakeholders. This is to achieve the objective one. And for the objective two, we run the ICT variable to the GDP and also real sector GDP as the proxy for real sector activity. First, we do some regression on the GDP total GDP, and also for the transportation and warehouse as the sector that affecting much from the IT development or affected by the digital sectors. And also food and accommodation and also service company. Why we choose these three sectors? It is because of the data shows that the highest impact of the digital sector, especially, is to these three sectors, yeah, to the transportation and logistic and warehouse, and also to food and accommodation, and also to the service company. It is from our study before, yeah. So we take that we want to assess the impact of the ICT sectors, and we use in the more narrow definition. If we refer to the first slide, the narrow definition of the ICT sector itself, we use the proxy here, the mobile subscribe. There are two proxy. The first is mobile subscribe, and the second one is the fixed telephone, yeah, as the proxy for the development of ICT sectors. Yeah, of course, this is very, very narrow. Of course, we can make it better or make a better proxy, yeah, using the data that more up to date. But this is usually the in aggregate level that available, yeah. And also we run with other control variable, but the main variable here is about the mobile subscribe, and the other, like the roads, is the representing infrastructure. Okay, this is for the objective 2. And for objective 3, about the business to consumer e-commerce share, yeah, we use the model, the independent variable that affecting the B2C consumer. The first one is the net user, yeah, net user, and the second one is ICT law. Yeah, this is taken from several of literature study that we get this model. It's not arbitrary, of course, it's not ad hoc, but of course from the literature study. Yeah, we will publish this paper in the proceedings of April. It's still in the process of edition. Yeah, so if this paper has been published, you can see the detail. Yeah, why we choose these variables and also the definition, the operational definition, and etc. Yeah, of course, we are on taking only on the summary. The first one is the net user, and then the ICT law, and the third variable is venture capital, because we know that from several studies shows that venture capital is very important in determining the success of the e-commerce transactions. And then also the domestic variables such as income inequality, and also the trade policy like the tariffs also impacting the e-commerce business to consumers. This is the operational data. Like I said, you can see in the detail. Yeah, I think this is the source of the data and also the definition. You can check it. And also for the model 2, yeah, we use the data from several sources such as ITU, International Technology here, ITU Statistics, yeah, and then World Bank Group, World Development Indicators, World Bank Group Trade and Competitiveness Data, United Nations Development Program, Human Development Report, World Economic Forum for the Global Information Technology, and e-marketer report. So we are combining from several sources of data. We can see here, for example, net user is the percentage of internet user, yeah, to the total of population in percentage. Yeah, ICT law, the scoring from our readiness from e-transaction. Yeah, and also venture capital access. Yeah, inequality from the World Bank, and tariff, the average tariff. We can see here from UNCTAD also, yeah, United Nations and Trade. Of course, this is in our publication. Forthcoming publication will be explained in detail. Okay, this is the result and analysis, objective ones. The first is about the Indonesian balance of payment composition here, that we could see that the cause of the current account deficit is also from the problems, our problems in the net export from services, yeah, from services. So we have the problems in services. In goods we have a problem, but in services it's more the problems, yeah. We could see that one of the contributor, the first contributor is also from the service sectors, yeah, and then also from the primary income, yeah, usually, like I think in Bank Indonesia study also from the same thing. And we are care about the service sector, especially regarding with the digital economy or digital sectors. If we break down into more detail, this is the data from the statistics of Bank Indonesia, yeah, Bank Indonesia statistic external sectors. We break down into several classification here. The biggest contributor of our deficit service in our balance of payment is from the transportation sectors, the first one, and also the black one here is from the communication and information sectors. Yeah, communication and information sectors. This is contributing communication and information. So we could see that this become our problem, and also the telecommunication, and also from the property intellectual property. Yeah, intellectual property yeah, this one, intellectual property. Intellectual property has a close, very, very close relationship here with the digital component, yeah, with the, for example, with the software or with the services related with our use for several application. Yeah, we use, we know that if we use some of the product, yeah, of course there are some intellectual property that we should pay, and it has become our deficit in the current years. Okay, we are thanks for Bank Indonesia Statistic Department because the data is not published. Yeah, this data we get from the Central Bank of Indonesia Statistic Department. We get the component. We want to know more about that data, and we get the data of import services related with digital here. Even of course, Bank Indonesia and BPS still makes this data better, but this is like the maybe the proxy for the data. Even it's not really accurate, but I think it can become the proxy. We could see that the import services related with digital, there are two. The first is the telecommunication and information, and the second one is about the intellectual property. This is the share in the percentage, to the service deficit. To the total import in services, I mean. This is the ratio to the total import of services. We could see that the digital component become increasingly in terms of telecommunication and information. We could see that it is very accelerating. Yeah, it is accelerating. Even for intellectual property, still high portion, but there are some declining trend, but still higher in terms of the nominal value. In terms of share, it's relatively stagnant and declining, but in terms of value, it is still increasing. Okay, the analysis here that the import service related with ICT and digital component has been accelerating since 2014, especially in intangible component like intellectual property. It's around, the data shows that I think it's around 1.58 billion US dollars. So if we could see the data, the net export for the telecommunication and information sectors is about minus 1.58 billion US dollar, and it's become persistent here. You could see. For the intellectual property, the net export is also still deficits, but become better. Like also it is shown by the decreasing share. But for the telecommunication and information sectors, it's declining in persistent way. Yeah, so I think it is our concern. We also, at the focus group discussion, we have also several input from the Ministry of Communication and Informatics, Mr. Rudiantara. Mr. Rudiantara also give some view and comments about this data. We could discuss later. Okay, and if we break down also from the HS code, from the UN Comtrade international data, can try also to break down. It is the service sector, and we also see the goods sector related with ICT. According to our research, in 2018, the import of ICT product was in the third rank as the largest component. It was around 21.45 billion USD with 11.37% share. So I think this is very should be a concern. Because the import of ICT product is also one of the contributor of the deficits in our goods, in our trade balance. Not only in services balance, but also in the goods. We are also even the number is still higher for goods. Good is 21.55. For the service deficit, like I said, 1.58 billion USD. So, and the intellectual property around 1.4 billion USD. And we use the data from HS code. We try to break down. This is the HS code 8517. It's including the telephone sets, including telephones for cellular networks or for other wireless networks, other apparatus for the transmission or reception of voice, image or other data, including apparatus for communication in a wired or wireless networks. And this is the detail. The largest is the last one. The largest is the detail on the highest code. It's more. This is the 4 code, yeah, 4 digit. This is the 6 digit. You see that the telephone sets and other apparatus for the transmission or reception of voice, image, or other data via wired or wireless networks and parts. Yeah, so we should become our concepts. Okay, next we can move to the result and analysis for objective 2 about the determination of B2C consumers. Yeah, this is the correlation analysis. For the objective 2, not for business to consumer, but still in the macroeconomy, talking about the impact of the electronic or digital sectors to the economic in aggregates, to the 17 sectors, but we are focusing on the 4 sectors. We could see that the significance in transportation and warehouse, accommodation and food, and also in the service company that has relatively high correlation compared to other sectors. For example, agriculture is only, for example, 0.72. But for transportation, the correlation around 0.9. So 0.99, 0.98. So it's very high correlation with the ICT or telecommunication and information sectors. And we also doing the regression that we already presented in the research methodology. And our regression found that the ICT variable proxied with mobile subscribe has positive and significant impact to 4 sectors, aggregate sectors, and also the accommodation and food, transportation and warehouse, and also for the services company. And the largest impact is for transport and warehousing. So if we see the magnitude, the largest effect is for transport and warehousing with the elasticity 0.13, around 0.13%. This is the largest coefficient, and the second largest is for company services. But we found some interesting evidence also that the impact of the digital sector to transport and warehousing is without lag, So it's instant response or instant adjustment. But for the company services, it is relatively with the 1 quarter lag. So it is one interesting point that the implication of the digital is instant in the transport and warehousing, but for the company services, it is for 1 quarter to have the impact. Okay, this is the business to consumer regression panel regression result using generalized pool, generalized least square. We see that some variable that positive and significant is net users, ICT low, venture capital, but for inequality, it's not significant, with the negative coefficients, and tariff and also has not significant and negative. So we could see that the dominant here is about the net user, the second one is about the venture capital, and the third variables is for ICT low, that significant in 1%. This is from the thesis of my students, Monip Ansori here. Okay, next. Okay, this is the conclusion. So there are several things to discuss. Of course, there are also some input from stakeholders from the focus group discussion. We could discuss in the going forward session. The conclusion first that information and communication sector has direct impact to increase Indonesian GDP in aggregate terms, and also if we divide into the sector. There has been increasing correlation since 2010 with other economic sectors, and the highest correlation with company service sectors, transport and warehousing, and also the accommodation and food. And the second conclusion, there has been increasing contribution from ICT services to total input services that contribute to Indonesia's current account deficit. And also ICT import goods also contributed to our current account deficits. So there are some implications that resulting from our focus group discussion with us, also with the business representative and also from the association. They said that there are needs of cross-border import regulation and also strengthening import database, import substitution and export promotion, because sometimes the digital impact to our economy also determined by our regulation itself. So how our regulation has ready to anticipate this trend, yeah. Of course, in terms of the nature, not to restrict the digital economic development itself, but still for the consideration for our condition for the current account deficits, yeah, we should strengthen such the cross-border import regulation, strengthening import database, and also maybe from the Association of Technology, they also recommend that we should doing such the import substitution for some of the component. We see that telephone and apparatus. Pak Menteri Rudiantara also agree with this policy in terms of that we could try to start to doing such industry, yeah, in Indonesia. There are some potency that some investor want to invest in the, for example, in the assembly of the telephone, in the assembly of smartphones, yeah. We should take that opportunities, yeah. In terms of trade war, there are some opportunities to from relocation from China, for example, LG, Samsung want to have in Indonesia. We could grab that opportunities, yeah, to decrease our import dependence on those apparatus, yeah. So this is one of the strategy. And the third conclusion, based on the focus group discussion with stakeholders, there are several conclusions. There are potency to develop ICT area. The first in the device, yeah. So there are three main business process in the digital sectors. The first, device. The second one is network, and the third one is application. And for there are several input from stakeholders that in the short term, Indonesia also could focusing on device, yeah, in the short term, and application in the medium term, because application needs some more high skills, yeah, and we are lack of labor in terms of, because of our demographic institute also concerned about labor. Why we cannot doing the application in short term? Because we are still lack in the labor skills, yeah, for making such application, yeah. Of course, we are in the process on that, yeah, but still in the medium terms. And those potencies could increase our domestic values and international reserves, and also can handle the such problems that we already discussed before. And in Indonesia, there are several policy here to support. And the stakeholder also said that one of the problems for the digital economy to develop in Indonesia, of course, about funding. Funding is always the classical problems, yeah. But the government also has been know about that, yeah. Funding is become the access to funding, yeah. Of course, for the digital startup, of course, we know there should be incentive to do a research and development, and also the funding for startup, technical assistance, yeah, incentive to market the products, yeah, to facilitate the platform, yeah. And also don't forget about the repository. It is very important. According to the ministry, again, from Pak Rudiantara, I refer to his recommendation that we need, sometimes the agent need the repository, and it is very important, repository. So the access to repository is very important to give the good start to the digital startup, yeah. And then also don't forget about, again, for the intellectual property right, because if we don't care, Indonesia is still lack about the intellectual property here. So the access to intellectual property, yeah, is very important to make an incentive for the economic agent. So talking about SME also can benefiting from the digital platform. I think Lembaga Demografi has doing some research about this much, yeah. So this is, I think, a complement with that. And the fourth is about the based on regression result, ICT variable proxied by mobile subscribe has positive and significant impact, like we already discussed. And this is the conclusion from the panel regression. We could see that the most significant factors is internet user penetrations, readiness for electronic transaction regulation, and the ease of accessibility to venture capitals to give the good environment for business to consumer e-commerce growing. Yeah, and this is also from the Ministry of Information Communication, some targets in Indonesia itself. There from Indonesia part, western part, and also central part is already a good one, but for the east part is still lack in terms of the jaringan internet, in terms of internet network, there are still, if we want this to come up, of course, the internet network is very important. And also, at that time, at the discussion, we also get the input from the backcraft, from the Creative Economy Agency, that said that actually Indonesia has the potential in digital sectors, not only for the fashion and culinary, and the food, but also from the game and animation, film, animation, game. I think we are now a net importer of game. But according to the Ministry of Information and Communication and also from Backcraft, actually Indonesia has the potential because there are some games that has been using abroad. Some games from Indonesian people that has been used in, but sometimes we are in Indonesia didn't know that. But other countries know that. Know that better than us. So the game become very potential according to Backcraft, But of course, it needs some, like the inputs and also some the access, there are many things. Because one problem is usually if we use the game there are some import component too in terms of software and services that also is relatively high cost, and relatively high import also. But in the next term, but we still try to decreasing the import of game and also increasing the potential from export from them because it is very potential. And this is several from the government that also how to support the startup in the domestic, for example, education and socialization, assistant, technical assistant, initiation of the marketplace for the e-commerce, and also for the security. Don't forget about security because security is also important. I think there are some reference also. There are many reference, and I think it's enough. Thank you very much for your attention and
Thank you for Ibu Telissa. It's a really interesting presentation about the digital economics since you're not really doing much about digital economic in research area. And of course, in the near future, we hope this presentation will stimulate you to do more research about digital economics. After this, we will enter the question and answer session. For the first session, we will accept about 3 questions. So you can ask in English or Bahasa, and before you ask this question, please state your name and institution. So for question first.
Thank you very much for the opportunities. My name is Falianty. I am a doctoral student at the University of Barcelona. I have several questions in regards with the interesting presentation that you just delivered to us. I started from your first slide. I think you make a diagram. I want to know the role of a smart economy, because here what we've been looking at your presentation and what I've been saying, it looks like the economics is based on central government. Meanwhile, given how big Indonesia in terms of geography and also our local culture and so on and so forth, and I believe every city or every area in Indonesia have their local wisdom. So how do you see the role of a smart economy in this outline that you showed to us. And also, can we also relating this or correlated this with circular economy? Because if we refer to what happened lately, especially outside of Indonesia, where people from the young generation do the strike, protest about the environment. So how we can connect this? Because I think there are so many ICT companies like GAFA, Google, Amazon, Facebook that try to work with other sectors to implement efficiency energy. So how about Indonesia? Because I think our geographic area also influence the natural area around the world. Yes, especially our forests. And sorry, I still have another question. Is related about the law itself. In Indonesia, we still lack many law and regulation in ICT sector, but there are also, I'm not sure whether this is sarcastic or not, in other part of the world, say like this, US innovate, China imitate, but Europe or European Union regulate. So this is actually pointed out to European Union, who always create lots of regulation, including in ICT sector, because their focus is on consumer protection. But in the process, it makes the development of their technology, innovation, and so on. Let's say refer to one of the technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning. They are left behind compared to US and China. So are we really sure that how far that we need to create advanced ICT law framework in this case? Maybe we still lack of basic stuff like, for example, privacy and data protection law, and even the cybersecurity one, because as you said before, security is important. Yeah. And also, I'm interested that you keep on saying about IP, intellectual property, but as far as I know, there are many elements in intellectual property. So could you, based on what you have done the research, which part of IP element in this case? Because at least there are 8 or 9, and then where have you put also this or consider this data element, trading data, as part of the IP element, or if you see it as a business or non-personal data in this case. And I think this is the last, is I'm curious why you haven't put the employment status where the effect which caused by the digital economy. Because for example, people who works, because you mentioned frequently about the transport sector, and apparently with this kind of digital economy, there are many people who work in the transport sector that the employment status is actually lower because they are partner, they are not employed. But that also means that the company are less have a less liability to be responsible with their let's say partner and so on. So I think this is for now. Thank you very much.
For the next question.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. My name is Ibrahim. I am an Ibu Ichas student in Faculty of Economics.
He's very senior in technology. I'm surprised he's here.
Because I want to learn. First of all, thank you very much for the study. It's very interesting, and it brings a lot of important message for the government, I'm sure. I really like the background of the study, which brought a lot of issues regarding our current economic deficits and the source of problem from many areas, from both the services and goods, ICT goods. But then when you try to derive into the model, then it becomes a little bit simplistic to put only mobile telephony and fixed telephony as proxies for ICT. Whereas in Indonesia, mobile telephony is very problematic 95% of our mobile telephone is actually prepaid subscribers. And if you check the data, basically Indonesia has the largest churn rate all over the globe, like 10%, which means that every other month, subscriber will swap the mobile telephony. So the higher churn rate will make it quite difficult to actually to estimate really how much is the penetration rate in Indonesia. While in other countries with mobile number portability, for instance, churn rate will not impact a lot in the stability of penetration rate. So some says that actually the penetration rate in Indonesia is just less than 80% or 85%. If you look into the active SIMs, not the total SIMs, but the active SIMs. And then secondly, if you use the mobile telephony as the proxy for GDP or for output, in Indonesia as well, we had several problems because if you go for primary survey data, then we will find that the link between mobile usage and productivity usage doesn't exist here. So majority of ICT use, if you look into mobile telephony, is actually less productive usage, and you can predict what are they, like social medias, entertainment, nothing to do with creating value added. Unlike those in South Asia, for instance, the emergence of telecenters to help the farmers and fisheries, it facilitates a lot the use of ICT for better productivity. And then also in the model, I don't see, I haven't yet seen, to be very precise, how did you deal with indigeneity problem, as GDP and penetration rate is always correlated, the exogeneity of mobile telephony, penetration rate is also questionable. The higher, the more, the richer you are, you will subscribe to GDP, to ICT. The richer you are, you will subscribe to internet. The richer you are, you will access to better internet services, or you will be subscribing to smartphones. So the exogeneity in the model might not be, it should be well addressed. I think it should be there, but you didn't listen maybe. And then you didn't touch upon taxation problem. The spirit to build our own ICT companies has been initiated since decades ago. We had PT Inti back then, and we want to have a network element and handset provider ourselves. But the problem is also in our company in shipping, transport, ICT. We are facing almost the same problem. If you import the finished product of handset, then the tax will be much cheaper than if you input materials to produce the handset itself. Exactly the same as shipping. If you input finished goods of shipping, it will be very low tax. But if you import raw materials for building shipping, it will cost you a lot. So there is no incentive to incentivize producers to create our own handset or ICT products in this case. So taxation is also something we should also touch upon in the study. And then lastly, you mentioned about IPR, but a section before IPR should be R&D. So if you look into R&D intensity, both at private level and public level, we are very much left behind. So IPR without R&D just not possible. Our public R&D is just about 0.1% of GDP, which is much less than India. I think LIPI is currently working on the revision of the data. It's probably about 1 something, but still very low. And then if you look into statistic of manufacture, the question about R&D is just dismantled since 2012. So basically, we don't know anything about the nature of R&D in our manufacturing companies, including ICT companies. So it's very difficult to actually come up with IPR solution while we don't have the exact data on the picture and the assessment of R&D in itself. In addition to that, even though we have been supporting R&D, even in advanced countries like Europe, the most important thing is not to to do your patent applications, but how to get the benefit from licensing of your patent. And even in developed countries, only 4%, if you look into European Patent Office, only 4% of patent is, or further, is further accentuated into real business or being licensed out, and thus having connectivity with the real sector. So while we don't have R&D, in itself, it will be long way off to achieve that target. So that's probably my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Telissa. I think this knowledge is new for me, and I think it is so interesting. I make maybe a simple question. I think the whole economy will be digitalized in the next, maybe in the near future. So the definition of digitalized economy will be challenging. As you have many identification of this digitalized economy, I want to know, because we know that Indonesia is lack in digitalized economy in comparing with ASEAN countries, especially Singapore. So maybe this identification in going forward, maybe for the next research, what kind of maybe the lack, what kind of factors that why Indonesia lag in behind in comparing with ASEAN countries. The second question, maybe this is for the next paper. I want to know, because until the end, I don't hear about fintech technology. As you said in the first slide, the perspective in digitalized, this is the core and broader. So I think in the next future, the broader perspective will be the best, maybe the bigger player, fintech technology. So I want to know how this player in this economy. Thank you. My name is Bekman from Perbanas Institute. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe this is very interesting questions, and there are very valuable inputs. I think that for digital issues, I think I also, as the individual, also learn is like a new like you, I mean that, of course, we are all should be changes in terms of, this is not our main specialization, but because it's also very affecting economy, of course, the digital issue we should also learn, So I want to learn also from Pak Ibra also. Pak Ibra has many research about this, Pak Ibrahim has this specialization in technology, economic technology, and I think we can, Pak Ibra maybe can add the answer to the other question. But several projects that I have in the last 3 years, it's also related with the digital issues. So mau nggak mau istilahnya, mau nggak mau harus belajar itu digital from the scratch, from zero gitu. So I mean that if still there are some limitation in our studies, of course, because we are still start to learn it, start to learn about e-commerce, fintech, digital banking. I also have the collaboration with OJK regarding with the topic of the digital banking issues and also financial technology, of course. So I mean that there are several issues, but today we're focusing on the topic. Of course, the broader topics, of course, will cover also fintech, and also this is William. William, you are from have the research about cryptocurrency, right? How about Libra, for example? It is also in the future would become interesting discussion, about Libra. And also thank you for, sorry, Mr. Firdaus, yeah, you are from Barcelona, Europe that regulate, Europe that make the regulation. It is also very interesting that I also get the information. So I ask with the collaboration, not one by one, the relation question. I will make some answer that related. Talking about your third questions about the about the circular economy. Second question, and energy, and energy. I will relate with Pak Beckman questions about fintech and also currency, maybe from monetary perspective, banking, currency, and also regarding with the climate issues or energy issues, Talking, for example, Pak, about the cryptocurrency, usually the countries that would gain benefit from cryptocurrency, usually it is said from the Central Bank of Indonesia people that has been some research in the Libra and cryptocurrency. They said that the most beneficial country would be on the North countries. Usually, why? Because in the North countries, usually related with the climate. Related with the climate. Because if I'm not wrong, that it will affecting the climate. Too many. Because we use the computer, it means that it increase the heat temperatures. Right. So it would become safer if we in the North country's position, it's mean dikutub. So maksudnya itu akan mempengaruhi iklimnya juga gitu. Nah, it will affecting that one. So I think the topic of I also have start to learn that there are a correlation between the digital technology, especially in finance, in cryptocurrency or in Libra, with the climate. With the climate, for example. So you said that there are some protests to environment because we use the computer, increase the heat temperature, so it will also create the environment issues such as, for example, satellite garbage or something. It also creates the pressures to the environment. So the issue of digital has the correlation, of course, with the environment issues. Maybe if Pak Ardo want to add something there, I get the information that about that. That again, there are correlation between the climate and also the digital economy. It is my first point. And the second one about the intellectual property. Pak Ibra also give the comment about intellectual property. Also from University of Barcelona also said about the same thing, about relatively the same, similar about intellectual property. Of course there are some data limitation here. Of course in this study, because like I said, this is like a short study because the president needs some input, so we have the quick research on that. Of course there are some limitation in terms of the methodology, in terms of the data. And for the intellectual property, of course there are some classification. We try to make in the aggregate level that intellectual property has the large correlation with the digital component, of course, with the digital activities, I mean. So of course intellectual property not only about the digital activities but also cover the other things, but we try to correlate. We ask the Bank Indonesia, we ask for the data at that time to Department of Statistics, but they cannot break down the intellectual property. What it is, I think Pak Ardo from the BOP Manual 6, intellectual property in balance of payment Manual 6 from IMF. There are definition of intellectual property. There are some component of it, but still we cannot break down the intellectual property. But maybe I think Bank Indonesia or BPS are in the process to make it detailed because the needs, there are some increasing demand to increase the detail on that. Maybe Pak Ardo will add some intellectual property. Oh, okay, thank you. Intellectual property, still Bank Indonesia also still try to break down it. The Department of Statistics for this. And maybe we can take a look. I have prepared also the same thing because we already discussed it in Central Bank. The problem of data. I think most of your comment also about the data. Of course, Lembaga Demografi is usually very care about data ya nowadays. We also have the here about the data, yeah. This is the same concern. We are also in the same concern. Yeah, we also make some discussion in BPS talking about related with intellectual property, the conceptual and also this is according to the OECD, like intellectual property also related with like this one, which. Yeah, for example, this is the application and game developer, for example, but it's still in Indonesia, of course, there are some definition here that digital nature, for example, about the data, service and data, and then this one, city service provider, IT service, post and communication. I think Pak Ibra also know well about this one, and we also try to make the intellectual property product, IPP. So BPS also concerned about this, intellectual property product, it is for goods, intellectual property for product, and also there are intellectual property right, intellectual property right, and usually we are referred to the United States, and there are intellectual property, like you said, there. It will also related with the rule of FDI in the global value chain. So sometimes it's not easy to calculate the intellectual property because there are the global value chain, like we know multinational company rules and transfer pricings, and there are some issues also about the software, to difference between the pure software or like SaaS pure that are with the service tools, so there are the issue on that. We should know the process production of software itself. So of course we acknowledge about the problems of the intellectual property itself, there are some still ongoing also, this is also become the discussion and it's still going forward. Okay, so thank you for the comments regarding with the intellectual property, and also this has become the limitation of our study here, but we acknowledge about that, that we only try to simplify, try to capture the aggregates indicators in the first level. So in the detail for the next future research, of course we need to try to elaborate more about this. And for the government of Indonesia about the local wisdom, the role of smart economy, I think of course refer to the first slide. This one. This is of course the broader scope, digitalized economy. I think smart economy really has the relationship with the digitalized economy, so it's more on process. The core is maybe related to product. The narrow become bigger, and then the growth is also become larger issues there. And about the smart economy is the way, and also about the process. I think it's also become the broader scope of digitalized economy. And of course, like you said, there the local wisdom, also has the role for that. In Indonesia, for example, what do you mean by local wisdom to take here? Local wisdom?
So I think every cities or village should have their own character. So maybe in Jakarta, the business, how the smart economy works is different than how the smart economy works in Denpasar or in Surabaya, or when it's a smart village, because not every place in Indonesia is a city. Villages too. So, and sometimes, I don't know, the trend, it looks like we just want to make people live in the cities and cities more. Of course, it's a good thing, but sometimes we forgot that in the village, for example, if everybody just go to the cities, then in the end we still eat like the same human, like our grandma generation. So if everybody just move to the city and create cities, so I think there will be a problem with the sustainable itself, including how the economy works and so on.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. I know that I think we refer to Industry 4.0 according to Japan is not enough. I think one type of like this has been done by Japan. Japan has the Society 5.0, and in their Society 5.0 they acknowledge that robots and also technology is only a tools to increase the human beings, to increase the society welfare, and they acknowledge. So Japan is not one only for Industry 4.0. They are one like the more on that Society 5.0. Usually Japan is not one the same with China. Usually they are very very competitive, and they are not one only like the Industry 4.0. They want the more on that higher level Society 5.0. And I think talking about the local wisdom is very relevant for the Society 5.0. That for the sustainability of the Industry 4.0 itself, it's not like the local wisdom and also society participation and all should be subject for the society welfare. Not only for the capitalist or oligarchy sectors. That also. Usually unicorn that has many capital and they do very dominant, but still in Society 5.0 we still so concerned about the society itself, and I think it's very relevant with your questions. And the your fourth question fifth question about employment. Of course the study could be also extended to the employment, and I think the employment issues is also important, and I think demographic institution has currently with collaborative with Bank Indonesia also has studies about this employment effect, because this is the specialization of in the research of employment.
Research doing.
Of course, maybe you can ask to Mas Adit, about the progress of those research about the impact to the employment. So I try to focusing more on the balance of payment and also on the national sector account. Of course, employment is very important issue, disruption, but it is a very very big issue. So I don't try to make it more wider, and I think employment is very very important to discuss, but not in the studies. We limited the study not to discuss about the employment, but I realized that of course the employment is very important. And Pak Indra, thank you very much. Like I know that there are many proxies that you say that it's very very weak. If we use that data, but like in Indonesia, if we said to the president, there are no data, president, so all the data is still limited, there are no, but sorry, we still data, could you wait for 6 months for this memorandum of policy memo? We cannot say that. Today must be today. So we use the data that available and relatively accessible in terms of we know that BPS is one of our main source of the data, of course, but for the academic research that more precise and more rigorous, of course it needs more data that you said that maybe Pak Ibra can give the alternatives for the proxy, that maybe more reflecting the ICT sector development that can grab the impact to the productivity. You said that, right, in Indonesia, of course, still in the consumption, not the productivity, but maybe it can become the channel to the GDP, because GDP from demand side is also come from consumption also. So maybe it still can have on GDP in the short term, but maybe from the expenditure side, from the consumption, because we know in macroeconomy Indonesia still depend also on the consumption. So we are more on the consumption and how to shift it to the production. It is also becomes our concern. And thank you for your input. And you said that this data is still problematic for Indonesia. While we use mobile telephone and fixed subscribe, we have tried make the trial and error. We doing the regression and try to use other proxies. There are other proxies also that we have been tried, but this is the best proxies that we can grab. So we have several alternatives, but the availability of the data, the time series, and also the econometric test, yeah, that encompassing the sum of econometric test is the mobile telephone and fixed telephone. But the fixed telephone is usually not significant, but mobile telephone is more significant. So fixed telephone maybe is not relevant anymore. Yeah, so it didn't have the significant impact. And for the third, Pak Ibra, about the model, of course, there are the endogeneity problems here. Yeah, we have actually in the full paper we try to elaborate also the endogeneity issues here. Yeah, but we found that this endogeneity still robust. I mean that the significant impact of the mobile subscribe or the ICT variable still robust because we have tried also to elaborate the endogeneity and it's still significant. So we have done it actually, but in the full paper, of course, yeah. And about the econometrics methodology that more complicated can be used, but to doing, because like I said, this is the policy paper for the president. Sometimes we didn't have time to make any exercise econometric like dissertation, yeah. Pak Bigman dissertation 3 years, 4 years, but for 5 years, yeah. Of course, the best is like the dissertation, yeah, methods, yeah, of course, yeah. But yeah, maybe this could become the limitation of this study, and this is many of my students in graduate school, PPIE or in FKP, and you could do better to make more good models, yeah. And then about the taxation problems, yeah, of course there are the limitation also. Like I said, there are no, we cannot cover all topics about digital. Of course, the taxation is usually padian from Digitax, yeah. You should study about this. Yeah, you can discuss with Pak Ibra. This is your job, yeah, to discuss about the tax problems. Yeah. Of course, this has become the issue. Our tax source fall, and also, yeah, like Bu Sri Mulyani, like we already told, that the Ministry of Finance tried to tax Google, but as long as Google has not the Badan Usaha Tetap here, yeah, we cannot doing that, yeah, and we fail to tax Google, for example, yeah, and also, yeah, the e-commerce taxation become also the issue. We know that it's very, very sexy issue also, yeah, about tax, yeah, and I think this could become the motivation for the thesis, yeah, or dissertation also, yeah. And for intellectual property, I think we already discussed about that, yeah, about R&D data. You said that R&D in Indonesia is still low, yeah. We are not the consumer of R&D, and Pak Jokowi has acknowledged that. And in the second term, he said that we'll collecting R&D, yeah, more, and usually R&D in Indonesia like, ya ngabisin anggaran aja, ya spending anggaran gitu R&D. We know that, so it's not really productive, ya. So this will changing, ya. Pak Jokowi has promised to change this behavior, ya, to change this culture that R&D should be R&D, should be productive and should create the new innovation. If we remember from the R&D model, ya, research and development model in the Romer book, ya, in macroeconomics too, we see that R&D that could create for economic growth is R&D that has the parameter theta is larger than 1. Yeah, so it's not only not enough for imitation. It could be for imitation theta will be below than 1, and it will not create the sustainable economic growth. Theta that create sustainable economic growth is theta that larger than 1. It means that the R&D should should make the better one and better. Yeah, cannot be only imitating. If we doing some research imitating, the theta will be lower than 1. Yeah. So I think it's a very important point. And Pak Bekman, I think the definition and it is a good one. In ASEAN, you compare Indonesia with ASEAN. Why we are still? We know the answer. I think all of you know the answer. Why we are still like behind from ASEAN? Of course, why? Of course, the first one is about the human capital. Of course, because this is the knowledge economy that need very intensity in human capital. This is the sector that very. Pak Ari in our new rector, Professor Ari Kuncoro, I always refer to him because he is also one of my favorite lecturer in macroeconomics. In his speech when to become the rector in UI, he said that Paul Romer said that the sustainable economic growth should be created by the innovation and human capital. So, why we choose Pak Ari as rector? Because Pak Ari said that we need the innovation in our university. We need innovation and sustainable. The country that's sustainable now is not from goods exported country, but from knowledge exporter. It is the main point from Pak Ari that in the speech yesterday or today before, he said that we need the country that will dominate in the world is not the country that produce knowledge. That country that produce knowledge. So why Indonesia is still behind in the knowledge? Of course, first about human capital, and also not. It is too far, Pak, to compare with Singapore. It's too far. Usually, we are comparing with Vietnam, not too far to Singapore. We are doing a benchmarking with Vietnam. Actually, in this study, we doing a benchmark study to Vietnam, and we found that in Vietnam, ICT become very priority sectors. Vietnam become the 10th largest exporter of ICT in the world. It is new in the report of World Trade Report 2018. Vietnam is the new one, comes into the first, of course, China. The second one, European Union. The third is Hong Kong. The fourth is United States. Fifth, Korea. Sixth, Singapore. 7 Taiwan, 8 Mexico, 9 Malaysia, and 8 Vietnam. So Vietnam encompassing Malaysia in terms of ICT. We already know Malaysia is long history to become the ICT exporter, but Vietnam is a new one. So Indonesia is not on the list, on the 6th. Indonesia is not on the list. So why? One of important things in Vietnam. Vietnam has very good roadmap. They are very good roadmap, and they are very welcome to the investor, and they are forcing the transfer technology from the PMA or from the foreign direct investment investor. So they want please invest in Vietnam, but please doing the technological transfer. In Indonesia, usually we are very lack on the technological transfer. Usually Indonesia has not a strong bargaining position to require the transfer of technology, but Vietnam can do that, And we now know Vietnam has export to the country around the world, especially from the company Vitel. Vitel has going global. One of the. But Telkomsel, how about our Telkomsel, for example? It should be also motivated not to imitate, but to follow what Vietnam has been done. They also has the good markets in terms of ICT export. Vietnam has been in this production also in the local hardware with the global value chain. So Vietnam is very good in the global value chain. So one key to become the good ICT exporter or to develop our ICT sector is to have the good global value chain. And what should do by global value chain? Pak Ari said that we should have the international accreditation for university. We should have the network, a good network to international, and we are still but in the process of that. So we hope when we become more internationally good network, our GVC also will be good, and also our digital sector could be developed. Okay, thank you. There are of course many unanswered things, but maybe Iya, boleh. Mungkin tadi Pak Indra ada masukan dari feedback dari yang tadi.
Is there any feedback for the answer? From the answer given?
Boleh tanggapin ulang.
Boleh. Iya.
Just short. Just a little bit short.
Thank you. I appreciate the effort to answer some of. Maybe I also don't put the answer in more succinct. So I'm concerned about where do you put the smart economy. So the smart economy in this is smart economy can tackle all of this, or smart economy actually is another element that you cannot put inside of this. I'm still confused about the position.
Oh, okay.
And so I get your answer that you haven't get the specific information about the element of IP from the institution in Indonesia, right? Central Bank of Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
You cannot get the specific information yet about which element of the
Yeah, because they
IP
are
ratio.
still working on that. So they we cannot publish it because it's still ongoing.
Okay.
Workshop is about last week. The workshop they do a workshop. There is a collaboration between Central Bank of Indonesia, BPS, Badan Pusat Statistik, and also with the Ministry of Communication and Information. They are and also Ministry of Trade. And also Ministry of Industry, five institutions try to synchronize the data of digital about.
Is it satu data program?
Yeah, I think like satu data related with the digital, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe this is the paper from. Yeah, maybe Pak Indra has hatam for this paper, yeah. But still, then maybe you still about the where is the smart economy, that one, yeah, smart economy. I think this is a good paper. This is the not paper in terms of journal. This is the working paper I already get here from Book and Hicks. 2016, yeah, or 17. I mean that this one. You can see this is very elaborate. This is about the definition. So there are many definitions about that, and he also make the picture about this one. So more on if we talk about the goods, software, infrastructure, service, retail, and also content, yeah, make become in the higher levels, yeah, and also this one, yeah. I think when smart economy, I think will be on the broader scope. I mean that not in the core digital, but in the broader scope here. So broad scope, digitalized economy. There are the definitions digitalized economy, digitalized economy. So it's broader. I think it will be here on the blue one, yeah? Algorithmic economics, and also for fintech, it's about services. But I think for fintech, Pak Bekman, maybe it will be on the digital services here. Yeah, digital services for financial sector is fintech, financial technology. But for the smart economy, I think here, yeah, like the algorithmic economy. Yeah, maybe it's comparable with the algorithmic economy. It's we can make it parallel to the algorithmic economy. Maybe smart economy is there, and this is there is very good, comprehensive discussion about the definition. And I think the definition also become one paper, yeah, talking about the definition. Only the definition, yeah, because this is the new. Yeah, I think Bank Indonesia and also satu data tadi with BPS and also Ministry of Communication and Information works hard in this one. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask? What?
Okay.
No, it's related with the presentation actually, but I cannot really understand what you said about Indonesia produce lowest retail compared to other countries. What do you mean lowest retail? Is it the companies who are in retail sector, or is it the amount of the retail transactions in this case?
Oh, B2C, like B2C
Sorry,
share.
transaction.
B2C transaction divided by total retail trade.
So it's the
A portion,
not
yeah.
the contribution of Indonesian companies in retail sector. Just clarify.
B2C transaction.
Okay, sister. Yeah.
Okay, after this, since we have some time, maybe we will accept about one or two short questions. First,
Thank you. It's just a comment to Telissa.
Of course, we wait for the part of
First of all, congratulations for the research to Telissa. You've been a partner for Bank Indonesia Institute for
of course.
learning and research in Bank Indonesia. So once again, congratulations. The comment on the research is the research was very useful to convince us that academically that ICT has influence on our economy positively and negatively. ICT has positive impact on GDP and labor. I think you in Lembaga Demografi has been doing the research with Gojek, right, for the impact on labor absorption. However, you said it has a negative impact on the imports of goods and, of course, the service payments. Let me note about the source of data for the services. We are getting data from bank report, LLD. LLD report. So that's the report by the banks to Bank Indonesia based on the customers. They classify what transactions is that. So I think it's a good research on that. But for me, for we in Bank Indonesia, actually we are more concerned about the sustainability of the current account deficit. As far as I remember, you have a paper, I think, on the sustainability of the current account. And I don't think that you incorporate the digital economy into the current account deficit. Because if you consider the impact of digital economy, and also for us it is important also for the composition of demography. That's why we are concerned about the composition of demography, the education, age of the population, because it will impact how we deal with digital. For the millennial, I think there must be related closely with the cell phone for the internet. It's one of their lifestyle that impact, and it will impact also for the consumption. Consumption for the millennium. So our concern is that in 10 and 15 years ahead, what will happen to our current account deficit? Is it sustainable or not? Or how we can finance it, the deficit that could be stems from the consumption of ICT. That's why our research in Bank Indonesia is a long-term impact of the population and also the digital economy impact to our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Ardo. Yeah, actually Pak Ardo also very specialized in the current account ya. Also Pak Nyoman is also in Bank Indonesia. Lalu thank you Pak Ardo for the appreciation, and also we are in the same interest to research much more about the current account sustainability. It is our research too, our specialization of research talking about the current account sustainability is very important. And you has been explained that there are some factors, also demographic factors that affecting the current account sustainability. I think it will become the input for our study. Yeah, I think it's very important. You said about the consumption of millennial, yeah, that can also make the pressures to the future current account sustainability. Talking about current account, talking about intertemporal consumption in theory by Rogoff, usually in international macroeconomics, we talk that current account is talking about the intertemporal consumption. So if we see that the preference of millennial, they try to consume ICT goods and also services, and also try to import, because usually millennial is very love, for example, the imported goods that maybe more in terms of them is more keren, ya, lebih keren, and then maybe branded products, ya, that more usually. But of course not millennials. We know that there are some millennials that concern about the local products also, yeah. Not all of them. I mean that, but the tendency of the millennial, we will see that they are the preference for the imported goods. Yeah, of course this will influence the preference for imported goods, because there are some reasons also from our chief of National Economic Committee, Pak Sudrisno Bahir, is a businessman. He said that e-commerce has high impact on the increasing Indonesian import. It has been approved according to his judgment, and also because he doing a lot of many discussion with the stakeholder. He said that now, and also this is the information from associations that said that after the e-commerce platforms, imports become increasing. Yeah. Of course, it is not only happen in Indonesia, but we have several regulation to capture, like the regulation from Ministry of Finance and also regulation from Ministry of Trade and Communication and Information about the electronic trade transaction. There are some regulation to restrict about these imports. Yeah, especially if imports is legal, it's fine. Usually we have the problems also with illegal imports that also could make our economy become poorer also. Yeah, import. So the e-commerce platform, sometimes we do that. We find that it's also make the import easier. Yeah, of course, this will affect the current account sustainability. It is on the one side. On the other side, don't forget, like we already studied about FDI. We know that FDI in ICT sector has encompassing FDI in other sectors, except for the mining. In the data of 2000 and I'm not updated the data, but I get the latest data for 2017. The ICT FDI is the second largest after the mining. So it means that we get the FDI also from the ICT sectors. It is a good one in terms of capital flows, of course, if it good better for our capital flows. But from the other side, how about the import implication also from the FDI? Because we know that FDI usually also has the high correlation with the imports. Also, yeah, and about the transfer of technology, that's like I said with benchmarking with Vietnam. So we don't have the bargaining position to transfer technology. We could increase our productivity in terms of also increasing our export, like our study too, that FDI in Indonesia sometimes want to find the market seeking orientation, MSO, not for the productivity orientation. not doing the technological progress. So it's not contribute. So what our strategy is to attract FDI in ICT is okay, but don't forget about the technological transfer. We should have the bargaining position to require for the technological transfer, and also how the FDI could help us to increase our ICT export, like what Vietnam has been done. So it is our homeworks. I think that's very important. Not only we are happy because our FDI is large from the ICT sectors, many unicorn comes to Indonesia, not like that. They are only, for example, please don't only find the market. We have the win-win collaboration in terms of we can also require them to increase the productivity and also to increase our networks for the ICT exports, and also including us in their GVC. Not only as the consumer, but also as the producers in the global value chain. Of course, they said, okay, but how about your human capital? So it is one of the main priorities of Pak Jokowi's second terms, about the human capital. Because we know that, if I'm not wrong, Gojek is also import the at that time, Gojek communication manager has said that Gojek importing 2,000 people from India for their engineer, for example. Gojek is an Indonesian company, but for engineer, they said because in Indonesia there are no meet the criteria. So it is our problem. So okay, ICT sector, labor, we should labor also. And also sometimes the problem in our investment is about the classical problems like licensing, permits, and also about land. Lahan, about the problems about lahan. I heard there are some review also in the BKPM said that one of the ICT companies canceled the investment in Indonesia because there are no lahan that meet their requirement. We don't have lahan because there are too many mafia tanah in Indonesia. So mereka pusing dengan itu dan akhirnya nggak jadi gitu. So we lose the opportunities. The story of BlackBerry, the story of Samsung that canceled their investment in Indonesia is become so it's, I think it's very, very interesting to discuss it. And thank you for the inputs.
Foreign direct investment.
You want to give comment or asking a question?
Asking, but I think it's something that also should be clarified.
Maybe one.
You mentioned about the land, and then I think there is another example.
But I'm also curious because you keep mentioning about what happened in China and Vietnam, and as well China. If we see the transfer technology is really working, what makes they have the bargaining position is strong in terms of transfer technology? China now, because they are for many years, they really get the transfer technology, and then. Interestingly, Indonesia is a democratic country, right? But instead, Western country prefer to invest, including US company, in a communist country like Vietnam or China rather than Indonesia. So, do you think this is a problem with the human capital, mentality of how we work, and also maybe with what happened lately, where I think it's also from the Mr. President, from Mr. Jokowi, who were upset that 33 companies who moved from China to Vietnam, and mostly to Vietnam, but also to Thailand and also Malaysia, but none of them go to Indonesia. And also relating with the recent comment that corruption eradication issue is harming the investment, which is for me it's an interesting point of view. So maybe from the economic expert you can clarify this, but from academic view. I found the logic is confusing in one side, in other side.
Indonesia always confusing anomaly. There are no consistent. Usually there are some inconsistency in our country, but we are still growth with 5%. In terms of our inconsistency. But of course, thank you. Of course, like people, popular people know that the problem is in the first, of course, in the human capital. Why we the issue of transfer technology become very low or on priority in Indonesia. And of course, the second one, like I also refer to Pak Ari again. Yeah, Prof. Ari said that one of our week usually is about the negotiation capability. Yeah, it is also one of his important point. Yeah, negotiation capability. So, in many cases, sometimes we didn't know what we want when the investor come. Usually, we are only happy, get some million USD, some billion USD. Yeah, we happy. But we are different with Vietnam in terms of the negotiation. They already prepare in the proposals. Yeah, you come here, I get you first, two, second, third. Yeah, this one. This is the list I will give you, and please give us the feedback first, second, and we are not doing that. I think in the negotiation, So sometimes we didn't know what we need. Yeah, it is. Like you said, this is like a culture or our lack of human capital in terms of this. Yeah, in terms of also contract and negotiation. So in terms of the contracts, yeah, they know and then doing the research before. Yeah, doing the comprehensive research before doing the negotiation. Sometimes in negotiation we didn't bring anything. Yeah, we didn't bring anything, and usually no research about that. So, research about what we need is very important. Yeah, and usually, the transfer of technology in the Vietnamese investment law. So, Vietnam, for example, has the Vietnamese investment law 1992. It is said that the foreign company is allowed to provide the telecommunication service. Yeah, but there are a requirement for transfer technology and for the training for the Vietnamese people in their contract. So they have the scheme by their regulation. And you know regulation in Indonesia? Yeah, like the corruption regulation, and yeah, sometimes it's not based on research. Yeah, how about our investment law? Yeah, we should compare it because in the Vietnam investment law, it is stated that the company that provide the service provider to Vietnam should comply with this rule. Yeah, it is, and also Vietnam has the integrated network with the ASEAN Economic Community and also other FTA. And they optimize this free trade agreement for boosting their ICT sectors. And also, Pak Rudiantara has mentioned one example, Korea. Don't forget about Korea. Korea has a law that. For example, Korea here. Korea has regulation to restrict DSM because Korea is based on CDMA. So Korea also has strict regulation on that. Not allowing for DSM to come to Korea, and this is to provide CDMA by themselves. Yeah, so. It is before WTO in 2000s, yeah, before WTO in 2000. But after WTO said that the country cannot discriminate like what Korea did, but their CDMA has been built. So they are have the strong CDMA system. So GSM itself has not competitive. Yeah, this is the example. So it means that they are has the regulation before. We are very late to anticipate this development. It is also one of our weakness, I think. Thank you.
Okay, maybe since there's a time limit, I think I'm gonna end the Q&A session here. And after this, we will have some token of appreciation from Lembaga Demografi for Bu Telissa, for Pak Dewa,